Oh yes, with the possible exception of our Audi R8 V10 Plus we've just sold, unfortunately for me. This is the pinnacle of my little YouTube career. This is a Porsche 911 991 GTS. Forget what I said about the Cayman Turbo a few weeks back being a really good part of the car, having the turbocharged engine. This doesn't have a turbo and it is all the better for it. Listen to this engine note. I actually got a bit of wheel spin then, it's a bit naughty. It's the last naturally aspirated, normal, if you like, 911, if you exclude GT3s, GT3 RSs and all that stuff. The GTS that followed was a turbocharged engine. So this really is what many might consider peak 911. So this GTS is based on a Carrera 2, so it's two-wheel drive, going to the rear obviously. It has a 3.8 litre flat six, developing 425 horsepower and I think about 330 foot-pounds of torque. It's quite a simple recipe really. We have the PDK gearbox. If you look on Auto Trader, you might be fooled into thinking that it was only available with PDK, but actually I think there was about 50 manuals that came to the country and they don't come up for sale very often. I can imagine a lot of them are kept hidden away for when the values go straight through the roof. But the PDK is such a good gearbox that I don't care. I love it. I'd like to try a manual, but it's not going to happen in my lifetime. So we can only judge what we have. So as normal, we're driving through a little village, through towns, normal roads, some terrible roads, and we will stretch its legs a little bit later on. But to start with, the car is very comfortable. The seating position is perfect. The steering wheel can be adjusted to wherever you want it. It's a lovely, lovely place to sit. This, being the GTS, has some extras which are included in the price. So we have this lovely leather on top of the dash with the red stitching. We've got the Alcantara, we've got the carbon fibre inserts everywhere, which looks so expensive. It's just beautiful. The way everything's put together, we'll go into a bit more detail in a bit, but it's just such a lovely place to sit. Alcantara wheel is really nice in the hands actually. It's a great steering wheel. I do like Alcantara. My only gripe is they tend to like gather muck, and if you don't clean them properly, this one's fine. But you have this horrible like almost sticky feel to the Alcantara, and it's almost as if you're shaking hands with the previous owners and none of them have washed their hands. I'd almost be tempted to wear driving gloves if I was driving this car, but it's a bit much, isn't it? I am getting a bit of tyre noise. It's not the quietest car inside. I don't know if you pick that up on the mic. The car does have 305 section rear tyres, which helps with the astonishing traction, but you're constantly getting that sort of slight tyre whine, which I can get over. It's probably better at high speeds, we'll find out in a bit. But apart from that, very comfortable seats. I love the GTS embossed in the headrest, that's a really nice touch. And it has rear seats as well. I don't know if you remember my BMW i8 video. I concluded that this, well, the 911 with back seats was the only proper rival to an i8. I stand by that. It's really quite usable. Only small people could get in the back, but it has ISOFIX, which is really nice. And yeah, i8 and 911, they're at the top, I think. The ride is really rather good. There's some quite poor surfaces on this little route and it works quite well. I'm not getting thrown around at all. The steering wheel isn't jiggling around being a pain in the arse. It's really quite civilised. It's a little bit busier than I thought it would be today, so can't really stretch its legs too much. But we are going onto the faster bit of road. I have various settings in this car, so there's some quick fire buttons if you like. There's a Sport and a Sport Plus. I think for this bit, it's a bit cold today, it's a little bit damp, I'll probably go into Sport. So what that does is it illuminates the exhaust button, it keeps the suspension in comfort, and it keeps me a bit of traction control on really, and it's changing down a little bit for me. I think I'll go into manual. Let's see what's what. Let's try not to flip this thing around. So a couple of down changes. I'm going to ease the throttle on. Yeah. This thing makes me very happy. That noise, it's just class. You can hear when I put my foot down, it's almost like a step change. When you first apply the accelerator, I didn't get anything, but then valves open, everything goes on, and you get this injection of noise, and it's playing behind your ears as well, so it's like it's pushing you down the road. You can hear it going crazy, and it shifts. There's no denying it's a quick car, obviously. I don't need to tell you that. But it's the sensation of speed which is just fabulous. I get it. I get why people love it. Oh, we're gonna miss things like this, I promise you. I just feel so at home in it. I try not to whip out loads of just common phrases that journalists use, but it's such a complete vehicle, and what I mean by that is not only is the engine and the chassis and the handling brilliant, but for example, if you're sat in a Nissan GTR, obviously it's going to pulverise anything that you come up against. It's a sensational sports car, but when you're sat in it, you're thinking, the interior's a bit naff, like there's crap buttons everywhere. I'm pretty sure that window switch is from a Nissan Micra, but with this, it's just so complete. It's beautiful. The buttons, you press them, they make a nice little click. Everything feels so solid. The dials are so recognisably 911, and it just makes it just the most wholesome experience. It's really difficult to explain, but I think I may have tried to explain it there. Listen to that noise. And that gearbox is fantastic. It is so fast, up and down. It's really zippy as well. The engine is so sharp. It revs really quickly, it drops revs really quickly. Fantastic. Little roundabout here. Let's try Sport Plus. Let's see what the dampers can help me with. Just put it around here. Rear wheel drive, so I'm not going to go a bit too crazy, but front end is brilliant. The steering is excellent. It's electric steering. It was a bit of a complaint when the car first came out, but it works really well. Got some cyclists here. I'm not going to scare you too much. Oh, are you turning right as well? Okay, I'm going to have to overtake you two quite quickly. A bit of twisty road, let's try that. Oh, please move over. There's a little sensation that you get from 911s, which I've noticed. When you're turning pretty much full lock at slow speeds, you get this kind of skipping from the front axle, and I've looked into it. It's this thing called the Ackerman effect, which is such a geeky thing to say. But obviously it's when the wheels are travelling at different speeds as you turn the corner. It's quite amplified in the 911 because the front end is quite light. So if you're ever wondering what that is in your 911, I've just explained it. Gearbox is so good. Brakes are good. They are really good. When I was approaching that junction then, I kind of forgot the junction was there, so I had to press them a little bit harder. And I didn't quite have the confidence, weirdly, that I did in the Focus RS last week. That might just be me being a bit silly. I'll try them again in a bit. The interior is not huge, actually. I expected it to be a little bit more spacious. I'm glad it isn't, but judging by the size of it, I thought it would have more room inside. But I guess it does have a big engine out back. It has a decent sized boot in the front, or frunk, whatever you call it. But I don't know if you've seen that image of 911 evolution from 1964 to current. The 911 has grown vastly. It's a perfect demonstration of how cars have got bigger over the years, comparing it to a car that has had production as long as the 911. And the tyre sizes, it's just laughable, isn't it? The 911 started out as this dainty little sports car, not too quick, just a delicate little handling sports car, and it has obviously evolved into something really rather serious. And I'm happy with that. Brake pedal, yeah. I just want a little bit more reassurance from the brakes. They're not bad, obviously. These are the normal steel brakes, these aren't ceramics. Right, here's that roundabout that's a funny angle. There's a learner that's just joined it with me, so I don't want to catch him up, but we'll see what it's like around here. Very, very planted. I didn't push it too hard because it's a 911. The engine is hanging out over the back wheels. I don't want to start spinning it, but if you just keep it at 8/10, it is absolutely nailed to the road surface. Lovely. I've heard people say that 911s struggle to turn in, and they probably do. I think if I went a bit faster then I would have got a bit of understeer, but I didn't push it too hard and I went round there really rather quickly. Prices. So this car was just under 100 grand when it was new, and now it's up for sale for 56, 55. Really good value car. I know it's 10 years old, but it feels like it's just come from the factory. And as I said at the start, people go nuts for 911s, especially when the world starts to go electric and everything's going turbocharged. I mean, the new 911 is a hybrid. I wouldn't really call it a hybrid because it's kind of just, it has some electrical assistance. I think that's probably the better phrase for it. It has a little motor in the turbo, and I think it has an electric starter motor and a battery about that big. So it's not a proper hybrid, is it? But it's just never going to make this noise. That was in a tunnel, that was a bit silly. Like a 3-metre long tunnel. Would I have a GTS over the likes of a 911 turbo? It varies really. I think the 911 range is vast. Obviously there's 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive, turbocharged cars, Targas, like track derived specials. There's all sorts going on, and that's the beauty of it. If you want a car that you can use every single day in various weathers and pulverize anything that you come up against, a turbo or a Turbo S, there's not much beating that, is there? But if you want something that you can use maybe not every day, maybe have a hot hatch alongside it and take it out for a spin, this GTS is so good. This is my crap bit of road. Focus RS last week was a joke. Oh, that's not good. And this, no problem. Still a bit bumpy, but not like teeth-shatteringly bad. What an absolutely sensational motor vehicle. And no one's letting me out the junction. Is that a 911 thing? I don't know. Listen to this engine note. I actually got a bit of wheel spin then. That is mad. The engine responds so quickly that you can light up the tyres quite easily. Sorry, Amy. I had it under control. Oh, I can understand why you love this. And I apologise, Amy, I've absolutely ruined your seating position. This is the problem we have at work. Amy likes to have his seating position quite different to mine. And every time I get in a car after him, especially if it's a car that he uses regularly, like this, I get shouted at. I'm sorry. But I'm not driving it like this. It has really nice practicality as well. It has this double cup holder which is in front of the passenger, which is a really nice solution. I think they got rid of that in the 992, which is a real shame actually. And then they placed it down here, which is pointless. This, to me, without knowing too much about the 911 family, I've not driven all of them, I've not driven a 992 yet. But from what I've heard, what I know, this has got to be the peak. Let us know what you think. I'd like to know the people who actually went out and bought the GTS or have something else like a GT3 or a turbo. Do you think that this might have been a better option? Do you think that this is the best of the bunch? If it's not the best 911, it's certainly in the top 2 or 3. Sensational. And we're back at base. I could just continue driving this thing. Shame.